Oh, it's
All
live.
right. Well, okay. There we go. Go black.
You
Hang
know,
on. You say something? Say something?
oh, well, howdy, everybody, if we're live
All right. There we go. Look at this. See that? Huh?
yet. Global, Australia.
So I was gonna get a
Here we
song too,
are,
but whatever. That's all right. I wonder
two
if I can.
generations.
I wonder if I can actually green screen you anyway. I just had an idea. But I'm only allowed to fuck around with the settings. Ah!
Well, after I'm long gone and we're looking for some way of saying how much skin damage has he got from the sun, you'll be able to remember this time.
Ah!
Oh,
That's hectic. Sorry about that. That's not good for
what's that?
anyone's
It's the
sense of
skin
self.
damage filter.
All right, I'm gonna turn this off. All right, Dad. Welcome to the Sam and Dad show. Special guest, Dad. How you doing?
Oh, look, I'm
You
very
made it.
well, stupidly well for a fella who's 70 years old and fallen off tall buildings and smashed motorbikes into trees, hurtling through space in the snowy mountains. I'm doing fine. Wear and tear from digging trenches all my life and doing earthworks. I've just come down from some now. I just can't give it up.
What have you been digging?
I've been digging the finishing touches to the grand pipe connection between John Jones's roof. This is out in the bush for those who haven't been following the last 70 years of my life in meticulous fine detail. Um, from John Jones's roof upslope from my bush house here in the Bega Valley, southeast New South Wales. Lovely time of year, beautiful rains, more on the way. Roof, pipe, big tank that your mother put in ahead of you being born out here, Sam. So
Thanks,
there's some,
Mum.
yeah, thanks. So there's some intergenerational stuff right there with that tank, etc. And then there was the big bushfire about 18, 19 months ago, and the pipe was smouldering, and friends that came down with his bobcat in the end and tore the pipe out, smouldering to put it out and save the house and various other things for days and days on end. Sure, I've bought him a box of beer. Sure, I've got him another one ready, but how can you thank someone for that? So I've had to reconstitute this pipe connecting the big roof to the big downslope gravity fed pipe, fill up to 20,000 litres to do all my gardening and have plenty of water down here. And just been putting the finishing touches to that, just digging earth from alongside of this buried pipe, got some sand from the culvert up the road about a month ago, and into my trailer and bedded it in, and two rain events, all works, got it settled in, tanks full as a good.
All right. Well, I think we've got a small. Unless you're going to ask me how what I'm digging.
What are you up to, Sam?
Look, I have just been working like crazy and making lots of cool shit. Been really like interested in. Have you heard of NFTs?
MSD, multiple,
NFT, non fungible tokens.
do it slowly,
Non fungible tokens. So
not
it's a thing.
fungible, and then what's the third word?
Tokens,
Pokers,
tokens.
tokens. Oh, with
Like
the T, tokens.
yeah, so it's kind of like an extension of like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Essentially, what people are doing is they are there's these other types of crypto, like kind of like Bitcoin, where you can like put code onto the blockchain and applications. And one of the things you can do is like essentially issue tokens on the chain, like you would, like issue, I don't know, some sort of non-replicable thing in any other sort of legal structure. Like, they're essentially like issuing your own shares on the stock market or whatever on top of these existing chains. And what they're doing is that artists are essentially issuing tokens associated with their works of art. And that was like, it was this, kind of like silly like thing that they were doing a few years ago. And now they have, it's like kind of gone into the mainstream. So like, like established artists are essentially like it's not quite that the art is in the token, like that's kind of how it sounds, but it's basically like they're issuing a certificate of authenticity for like a digital work of art, right? So it's like that work of art that's associated with the token, even though you could screenshot it or whatever, there's only one of that token that the artist has issued, and they're like something like this Beeple, this 3D artist that I've followed forever, sold something for $69 million. Um, yeah, right. So I've been trying to get my head around what they are because it's kind of. I was like, fuck, I'm getting left in the dust here. I have no. Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna sell art on the. I know what you're thinking is like, Sammy, get selling.
No, no, I'm not thinking this is what I'm thinking. Who could know what I'm thinking? Who could know what anyone's thinking? Um, but here's what I was thinking, which is non-fundable tokens. So you have we
Oh, hang on.
oh,
I've lost you. Non-fundable tokens. Fungible. Fungible.
funge, yeah, fungible.
Fungible means that you can that any token is like can be swapped with any other one. Like so, a dollar is fungible because $1 is the
When
same
you
as
say
another.
non-fungible,
Non-fungible is that each token is a unique token. Um,
yeah,
I'm
and
pretty
so
sure that like most contracts will be like asset ownership classes will be non-fungible tokens eventually. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's like, ah, it's a fucking craze. I'm like,
here's my reading of what you said, and it could be entirely wrong. So pull me up if I'm on the wrong tram. You're on the wrong tram, Barnaby. Um, and it goes like this: that you, let's say I'm an artist, let's say I'm a sculptor, let's say I made a lump of wood out of a tea tree look like something interesting, and then I took a 3D image of it. I made it available in a way that someone could buy a token and thus own the virtual copyright or copyright to that work, and they then own a tradable item that somebody, oh, I want to own that virtual work. Oh, well, you got to pay me $69 million then. No, no worries.
yeah, it's pretty much that, right? And I was just like,
What happens with the physical reality object, which the virtual object is some sort of a representation of? That's my question.
okay, yeah. So, a lot of it isn't. It's just digital art. Like for example, the art that I make, um, there is no physical object, right? So,
Oh, okay, all right. Let me run this by you then. There's a fella called David Hocking, whom I don't know how far into the art world your head is, but he was a great representative, simple David Hocking, a simple representative of things like swimming pools in London, and people lounging alongside, and it was very childlike, representative but accurate, beautiful work. David Hocking, and he's now well into his 80s. And when I was last in Melbourne, more than 2.5 years ago, um, there was an exhibition of David Hocking's work, and nearly all of the work that was in the Victorian National Gallery there, nearly all of the work by David Hocking was he'd done it on his laptop. There was no art. He'd just made the electrons dance. There's some of his early work up on your left hand. The
yeah,
swimming pool stuff sort of set him up internationally, that one at the top. And then in more recent years, and he has some audio, he has some representation of someone with a camera over his shoulder. Oh, and here's this, and I'm making a forest and all of these line of trees, and I'm just with the broad brush stuff from one of the proprietal mobs that do graphic the art provision, and then you'd look up and here's this huge canvas. It's almost the opposite, where or they just had a bunch of big screens and there was his electronic art. So I guess I could see that that could easily be bought and sold, and that there would be considered one, like when art people in the past would do maybe a lithograph, make
yeah,
a print of something, and they would number them, and there might be 40 copies, and they had real value because there wasn't 4 million, there was just 40. And of course, the number one was considered the best one. and but their limited numbers themselves ascribed higher value per item.
Can't believe how quickly you fucking got that. Like, it took me like years to. It only just clicked a couple of weeks ago because basically, like Visa, like the credit card company, bought a Visa NFT. They bought an NFT, and so there was these things, CryptoPunks, right? Because so there's a lot of that, and that's what I was really excited about when I realized, like, wait, this could be a really important part of an artist's like expression and legacy. Is this digital publishing where it's like, no, it doesn't matter if you've screenshotted my Instagram, like this is the thing. Do you know what I mean? And people are like, oh, where's the art go? And it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like it's like it's not just about it's about having that piece of the artist. It's kind of like with paintings, where it's kind of like you're buying almost like stocks in the artist a little bit. Like it's you're buying the thing you love, obviously, and you're
being a
supporting the
patron.
artist. And you're also making a bit of a bet. Like if you're a speculative art buyer on them keeping painting, getting more, like that. It's kind of, and I'm like, okay,
9 million.
So, but I never really, I was just like, like I never got any of that when I heard about NFTs originally, and then so these things were like, and it was really like trivial stuff, but there's been this big resurgence. There's like a few different streams where it's like, oh, this is something. I'm not trying to do a cash grab or anything. Well, I wouldn't mind a cash grab. I'm always looking out for a cheap cash grab.
Where's the pay here button?
So basically, that they do these like release of 10,000 tokens, each with like a slight variation. So it's kind of like this like collector's card kind of Pokemon kind of thing, right? Where you and I was like, oh yeah, and so I kept seeing these CryptoPunks, and I was just like, what is this fucking these little characters all over the internet for like a year or two now, and I've just been like, what is this little character? I don't understand it. Visa, the like credit card company, bought as an asset class a single CryptoPunk for $150,000, and I was just like, hang the fuck on, what's going on here? And so I've just been like digging into it. So that's what I've been digging is NFTs. I was curious. I'm really surprised how quickly you got. Well, I shouldn't be surprised how quickly you got there because it's where I got to eventually, and I guess I gave you the alley-oop to the info you needed. But that's pretty much exactly what you said is what it is and why it matters. And then there's a bunch of other questions about other asset classes and using these types of networks to represent. Say for example, you can imagine eventually in the government like having a land ledger, and each land token is an NFT of like, and they're not because it's like itself a marketplace. It's like a really good way, an immutable way to like store like tokens that represent like legal entities that can't you just can't change. You can't burn it, you can't lose it. So what I did do is I minted one. For me and Chloe did our 30th anniversary, 13th anniversary, and I made she could sell it technically. I released 3 commemorative anniversary tokens for her. Oh, here we go. Can't break. It's fucking not working. So so I bought one. So this is the one I bought. I was like, I'm gonna buy some. I'm gonna whatever. This is by an artist that I've like followed for quite a while, and I was just like, you know what, fuck it. He has been feeding all his own writing and a lot of his own like visual work into an AI, and then been like curating like the AI's like kind of interpretation of.
When you say an AI, what does that mean?
Like basically a neural network that scans bodies of things and creates and spits out patterns, spits out new work in that pattern. Right, so this what says here, what makes you who you are is not inside your body, it's inside the quantum interaction between your brain and your environment, is actually a computer has passed like decades of his writing, essentially, or however long, and like spit out phrases that like sound like him. And so some of them are nonsense and some of them aren't, and he picked the top 200, and then he fed in a bunch of like photos of buildings, landscapes or whatever, and then a visual, like it's called GPT, I don't quite understand it, but it's passing a bunch of information from photos and then spitting out, it's like, this is what I think a photo of the world could be, right? So these are like these little generative micro art pieces, and I bought one. I was just like, I'm just going to figure what's out, and I'll just like have a crack. And so I bought one. That was kind of cool. Like I was like, all right, I get it. And then I was like, oh, this is fucking fun. Well, I was like, all right, this is interesting. So then I made these commemorative tokens for Chloe. So
are you going to show it to me?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
To us, sorry, to us.
Can you see my screen? Go to the Zoom. Are you on the Zoom?
can go on to Zoom.
You should do. I've been showing you all these bloody screenshots. No, you can see it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm looking in the background. Your head's
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get you. I get you. So yeah, I minted it, which is essentially like creating on this blockchain that no one technically owns. I followed the rules that I'd economically engaged in by buying tokens off someone else to be able to participate in that system because the currency is the
So
crypto.
there's a buy-in, like to trade, you've got to be trading, and to
It
trade, you've got to buy something to start trading.
So to interact with the system is built on essentially a Bitcoin kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then to interact and write and read on just to write to that system, you need like the currency of that system, which is what's traded. Um, but then this is like a level above Bitcoin where it's got its own currency, but it's also got a bunch of like code like rules of how it works that can
Mm.
then run software off that system. So I'm like I've got the currency, which means that I can write to the basically I can use one of these clients to say, hey system, I want to create a new token. And the system is like to write to the system right now. This is the cost, and it was like $20 um, to do for each one because it's like you're basically paying the distributed computing network that maintains this ledger essentially because that's all it really is a ledger with software
Mm.
rules built
Mm.
into it. So I was like, okay, token one, and I associated the art with which is like my little sketch for the anniversary planning. Token one, mint that, and then
Make it big. Make it big.
it's as big as it gets. Like the picture, it's almost like irrelevant. Like, but it's like
Now, well, it's not.
so the picture is like the little sketch that I did for. Hang on, you're in the
Okay.
way there. Let me move you. It's a little sketch that I did for planning the anniversary. So I made it was like a commemorative like art, like concept art, like so it was kind of like there
Like
was a
that you
bit of
got your dog there. Go on.
yeah, it's right. It's good shit, right? And then so this is the first NFT I ever, like the only like the first release I've ever made. So I was like, it's kind of cool if I'm ever like successful. Chloe will always own the first one that I ever made, and I set up her wallet for her because that's like no one wants to be told here's fucking 50 instructions. But I was like, okay, and then I sent it to her, and now she owns that token. I don't own it anymore. Like it's gone. Like I could make other tokens with the same photo or whatever. And I like each of the tokens was associated to an anniversary activity, and I kind of like so it's kind of fun, and I fucked around. So that's what I've been cooking. That's my
Yeah.
little like side like figuring it out. And then I tried putting a piece up to sell, and that didn't really go very well, and I got depressed and felt like a loser and just lost interest, basically. So that's been pretty much in the past week.
If you get that thing, the funny thing about money, and it is one of our themes that will lace through the coming years of these streams, and that is money as a means of exchange. What is the concept of value? How do you measure value? If I've got this and you want that, and I need the other thing, how do you best facilitate people having their needs met through exchange of whatever? And because we are this remarkable, explosively clever species, only started settling down 15 short thousand years ago. And here we are in the last 300 years going, woo, electricity, woo, steam, woo, external energy needs identified and met, woo. And then, oh, let's invent money. Very clever. I think it's one of our best inventions. And then let's invent what we'll call electronically hyper money, blockchainy stuff, means of exchange that are fairly impregnable to theft, etc., are highly traceable, memorable, linkable, and ascribable to an owner. The deep concept of ownership, huge concept. All animals and everything owns territory, and ownership's fundamental to life. Um, and then you've got not only cryptocurrency, but you've got like a repository. You've got a means of hanging stuff off that you can transfer and ascribe value and share its existence or its meta existence, because you haven't got a physical copy of that table with your dog and that. It's just an electronic event, but it has an ascribed value, even though it's just dancing electrons. And gee, we're clever at refining the concepts of ownership and having a good means of transfer to exchange ownership.
Yeah, yeah. It's that's the thing. Is it kind of like I'm like, all right, maybe the way it pans out in this iteration, it's like it won't be this, but it's like this is gonna be the thing. And I was kind of like, well, what is it? And I think it's what's interesting is that you can fake or copy or replicate, but what you can't replicate is that the creator's intent or someone's intent. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So if someone does something with that intent of saying that's enough, right? Like, and all you're really able to do with this that you could do with, say, a wishing rock that the artist says this is my wishing rock is that anyone can verify that externally, so that intent can thus become like globally broadcasted immutably without it going through some sort of whatever. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. But I know you have a new
Yeah.
segment, or do you want to spring it on me? Otherwise,
Oh, yeah, no, I've got to spring it on
all right.
you. There's a couple of things. We have our normal clippings and comments. I've got a thing on
Should I be
Shakespeare.
preparing a new visual, like setting? Like, if you give me a few
Well,
hints
okay,
before we
for
started, give me some
we'll
hints.
do newspaper clippings from the last month or two because we've been a bit irregular, and I only get the newspaper every couple of weeks because I don't go out much.
So we're doing
Because
the news.
I'm in the deep bush. So we've got uh, things about Shakespeare and how deeply he observed. So we'll go into the clippings for a minute. Then we'll do our the news segment, which I'll just give you the overall heading, which is uh, the wonders of human existence.
All right, all right, all right.
And
Perfect,
today's
perfect.
focus will be just hands and the concept of the hands and how absolutely
Well,
fabulous they are
all right, all
to.
right. That's all we need. That's all we need. Because if you give me too much, we'll it'll.
While you're bringing that up, I'll do the Shakespeare
No, no, no,
stuff.
no. I'm bringing this up. Da 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 da. All right. What's
Oh,
in the news
Shakespeare
today?
in the news. Okay. This is from, I'll be honest with you, late July. It's always the weekend Australian, so don't get anything else. But he goes on, well, if we believe the moral depth and enrichment that comes from great art and music and literature, and it's kind of like what we're talking about, the odds may not be so bad if sufficiently open up. If a in a sufficiently opened up world, it would probably not be too hard to find young people who might do the great in northern Italy and the risen Christ and all of the cultural things that people have been so engaged with often for many, many centuries that have all had to stop with COVID. And then it goes the idea of the ways of seeing things through other masters, if you like, of thought. Shakespeare, a few better examples. It goes on, contemporary sense and great significant films were part of the air we breathe. This is in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's people that younger viewers would probably have never heard of, but are deeply meaningful to people like me, older. Ingrid Bergman, Visconti, and Fellini, one of the greatest movie makers of opening up your mind. Fellini, cinematic drama that matched the drama of the ages, including Shakespeare. We want, this is where it gets meaty, we want Gen Z to get this. We want them, this is my idea of cultural sheaths. We're from profound and rich cultural sheaths. Shakespeare is obvious part of that. But important that it be kept alive, the literary canon. So we might be able to sell tokens to original manuscripts of Shakespeare and the likes. It's important that it be kept alive. However, tedious literature departments and high school literature syllabuses can be seen. So that's one clipping. Another one, fairly briefly.
Are we doing any commentary? Well, to be honest, that kind of went over
Oh
my head
yeah,
a little
do
bit.
commentary.
Nah, I don't have much to add there. Like, I guess like I wonder how much like that intentional cultural preservation just becomes like another sort of like noise variance in like what is a completely uncontrollable or predictable cultural evolution. Do you know what I mean? Like no one was planning for Shakespeare when Shakespeare was around. You know what I mean? And the only reason he made it this far isn't because someone was like, "Oh, Shakespeare's so good, we need to do all that." Like he made it that far because he made such an impact, or was it that Shakespeare is here because the British Royal Preservation Cultural Shit Society made sure it was in the syllabus? You know, I don't know.
Well, it's probably the whole thing. An equivalent to Shakespeare for simplicity is Christ. Christ was there and just got born. Pretty poor family. We know the story. But for a bunch of reasons, we still globally more or less set our annual calendar to his birth. The whole world stops every Christmas because of this one fella, and when we think he probably got born and all the rest of it. So individuals make a big impact on a whole cultural sheath over time. How come? Because we resonate with greatness, we resonate with the fabulous. And so, why was David Bowie a really popular musician performer? Because he was bloody good. And we resonated with him, he resonated with us. And so, understanding our cultural sheath and the individuals who made clear, large scale contribution, remembering them, you don't have to relearn the history. You go, well, here's the human insight into the human condition. Why are humans so fabulous? The new sort of thing is part of it. Is our the amount of memes that we all carry with us from our childhood, growing up, and our life experiences, and all of the cultural and arts inputs that we have. It's very important to be, I think, self-aware about what our long story is.
So I guess well, you know what? We're running low on time. Do you want to do the news clipping, or do you want to go to the next the news segment?
Nah, we've got some stuff on hydrogen fuel. It's a bit of a bummer because it's just half of water and it's got no gravity sense and it'll all bleed away.
I know you don't like hydrogen, but let's not use our last 7 minutes on that. What's the new segment called? Oh wait, you gave me the name, didn't you?
A very brief mention of one of my favourite people, Escher. And of course, the idea that Escher gave us some cultural.
Hang on.
Escher.
Hang on.
Escher gave us some.
I'm getting ready for the next segment here. It's gonna be a oh boy. People are gonna love it. Anyway, Escher gave us what?
Well, Escher gave us a whole way of seeing the world, literally, that mucked around with our heads. He would draw three-dimensional things that made no sense, but you couldn't see how they didn't make no sense. He took the concept of visual perspective in drawings to a place that no one had even imagined before. And not only could he imagine it to do it, but he actually did it. And the opening article on the Escher, I'll just give you the few first opening sentences to give a sense. This is from some years ago, just when Escher was going to be at the National Gallery again in Victoria. And I timed my last visit down there a couple of years ago and met up with some mates and that, and we went and saw it. Fabulous exhibition, but this thing on Escher opens with, in 2011, an astonishing number of people, almost 10,000 days, streamed through an exhibition in Brazil, making it the world's most popular show for that year. But the artist features wasn't Lelele Dali. The subject was a maverick, a man whose work has often been dismissed, but whose images are among the most memorable in modern art, Mauritius Cornelius Escher, E-S-H-E-R. And while his name might not be instantly recognisable, on and on, Escher, any viewers, listeners, get a chance, go into Escher, buy a token before, because Sam, if you're onto tokens, you've jumped in early, then whoever owns the copyright to the Mona Lisa and every other thing on earth, that's already got described value, they'll all be going, all of
who
the
gets
people
to sell
trust accounts.
Who gets to sell the? Anyway, you've got a new segment, and we've got 5 minutes of our official time left. So, do you want to do the big unveil? Because I've set up a little background.
wong.
I couldn't remember the
It's the
name, but you.
lions and the tigers and the blissful in the lovely, wonderful, glorious world. And the title is the new segment is The Wonders of Human Existence.
Oh, okay, all right. I might have missed.
So close. That's the wonders of biology and globalism.
All right. I can work on that. All right. What are the wonders of human existence, Dad?
The wonders of human existence. Yeah. The wonders of human existence.
Actually,
You gotta admire us for our persistence. Um, so we've got the human existence, and today's topic, the title of today's wonders of human existence is hands. And hands, I got to thinking about yesterday. I'm washing my face. I've been digging some trenches. I've been doing some earthworks. I've been fiddling around with my gardens. I'm a bit grubby. And I think, I've got to wash my hands. It's time for lunch. Oh, I've got dust on. I've got to wash my face. And I looked down under the tap to my hands, and I cupped my hands, and I thought, they don't leak a drop. These hands are actually, amongst all of the other things we ascribe to the hand-brain link and how it, and we develop language and our dexterity and our opposable fingers, thumbs, what separated us evolutionary, la 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 la. But I've seen footage of monkeys and that. We can cup our hands and they don't leak a drop. They're designed, amongst all of the wonders of the hand, that our hands are designed that we can drink from a pool of water. We can hold water and splash our faces. And ain't that a wonder?
it is pretty incredible. I guess it's like, it's wonderful, obviously, and I often appreciate my beautiful material reality manipulators. But there's that, like, I think it's a Douglas Adams thing where, like, the puddle goes like, oh, what a beautiful world where I happen to land in a hole that's exactly the right shape for me, right? And it's kind of similar with this kind of stuff where it's like, well, yeah, they don't leak a drop, but we're the result of 4 million years of, or billion or whatever it is, like different types of, chemical cell combinations trying to hold water and blah blah blah, and then we just happen to land at, like, oh look, hands are watertight, blood stays in the body most of the time. But they're also a miracle. But that miracle is that quantum fluctuation of life, giving force to matter, plunging through time, literally at the tip of the fingers on the sheet of now. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So that's just came to me yesterday. La, 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 la. Oh, and I'm thinking that's just, and we all get why hands are terrific and how they helped us human. One, that song that I've got about them dolphins, and one of the recording versions that I did with someone who I normally hadn't done it with, I ended up doing a rap, and right near the end I'm going, we think they're happy. Them dolphins gliding through the glassy. We think they're happy, but maybe they're not smiling. Maybe they're going, how come they've got arms and hands? How come we've just got flippers? Ugh, like that. And you just think the miracle of the hands and how they led to our ability to make tools. Imagine the flipper making a tool. Maybe that's what's going on. And so the fabulousness of hands, but it's not just the way we could make tools and light fires and fashion spears and learn to throw and do all the junk we've done and plant crops and settle down and build the World Trade Center. We've got to mention the World Trade Center today,
Oh yeah.
20th anniversary, and rest in peace, 3,000 plus people who died in the terrible calamity. I don't know if you remember, Sam, but that was the first day I'd ever turned on morning television in my life. I had no idea why I turned that on. And I think you went off to school. I was just transfixed. I was just shocked beyond belief at how the world was now a different place forever after. And so we need to remember that we've got the ugly side of humans who think it's okay to hurt themselves, just crazy to it. And they think it's okay to hurt other people because their God told them to. There's something wrong with that God if it says causing pain and suffering is a good call. no matter what your perceived injustice, sense of righteousness, whatever it is, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. Lest we forget, I should put that as a like. I do a gym diary in the morning, and I was like 9, 9, 11, 21, like in my like where I write like 30 minutes exercise, and I was like, oh, that's the date. All right, lest we forget. But you know, being tweety, obviously it's a fucking. Look, the obvious tragedy is is you've covered it, and then the kinds of conversation around its place in like that global imperialist interplay between of geopolitics and the extension of those same hands clawing through time for the past 4 billion years, manifesting as like these clashes of power that become those kinds of things that just regular people get caught in. Like it's such a bigger conversation that you don't really need to have around it. But yep, 9/11. Um, what a stinker.
And
Probably
it's living
probably
on.
shouldn't have given the Al Qaeda all those fucking money and guns.
I know it's living on in Kabul today. It's a
Exactly.
very live snake. You know, the Bible, every document of human worth is full with the idea of Hydra, of Phaedra, of the snake with many heads that you have to keep striking. The fact that your grandfather and great grandfathers fought in wars to say we don't want people to unreasonably cause pain and suffering to others and to subjugate and enslave others and cause people to have a very hard and controlled existence. We will fight. If necessary, we'll put our own lives on the line. Freedom is just too precious a thing that's so profoundly human. And then today in Kabul, people are being tortured. Today in Kabul, women are being raped. Today in Kabul, the bad people have taken over the reins of power, and all of the superpowers on Earth, so called, haven't got a clue how to just simply make it good in Kabul, simply make it good in Afghanistan by providing the fundamental needs of life that we've talked about previously. So the optimism that human enlightenment, the optimism that human appreciation and respect for other humans, all born equal in the eyes of the law, which everyone's agreed to for the last 100 years. It's just hard when you get hard-bitten fanatics who think that pain to themselves and others is a good thing. We only pray for their souls.
Yeah, look, processing the just the quantity of like bad news and like bad reflections of like human nature over the past few years, and I imagine that there's been different levels of that through your life, you know. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Is this different to like the 70s and the 80s with the IRA and the this and that and the different types of struggles and whatever? I don't know. But like, it's kind of left me at the point where I'm still like, you know, bullish on the bright future and humans' capacity and humanity's value and innate intrinsic the intrinsic value of our consciousness of which, or consciousness of the universe of which we are the current spear tip of in our temporal zone, that we are worth continuing to push that spear through the the sheets of time or whatever. But it's also a bit like I've just been getting hit with so much like fucked up, like, oh, actually, are we even able to address climate change? Are we even able to like address those like deep inequalities that mean that some people born into this time just get fucked over? Maybe not. What does that mean? And so I've just kind of taken a break from any of it. I'm just absorbing new data because I'm just like, I don't know what's going on at the moment. Like, I'm still like intrinsically value based. I'm like, this is what I believe, that there's a good future in front of us and that we're capable of it and we're worthy of it. I do believe that. In the face of Donald Trump and Al Qaeda and all that shit, and Joe Biden and all those like the whole fucking lot of them. They're all not at the same level, obviously, but there's these intrinsic power structures that exploit a lot of the world and are unbalanced and damaging. And whatever role these people play in those systems, they're all essentially there's all that. But will we? I don't know. Whatever. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm just not thinking about it for now. Like I said, I'm just believing in everything until Christmas. So I'm fully on a 5-dimensional beings transcending. Because we're like lizards. Like right now, I'm like my belief structure is so big that it encompasses just the normal stuff and also a bunch of crazy shit, which is just very relaxing. I'm like, oh well, since we're all 5-dimensional beings that signed on to an astral contract, and I'm like, all right, pyramids are shooting lasers into the sky. It kind of makes it a bit easier to process all the crazy shit. But I only have till Christmas, and then I have to go back to a more grounded worldview. So I'm hoping that some like useful, like I don't know, or maybe you can't figure it out and you just have to keep going anyway. That's probably been the case since we started noticing ourselves in time and space, right?
Well, the idea of let's jump on that as a part of an exit strategy for today's live streaming on this particular 20th anniversary. As I just step into the box.
This is my favorite one.
And say that my worldview, the screens and filters through which I see the world, say that everything has a consciousness. Now you can believe this till Christmas as well if you wish.
Sure.
But I've developed the clarity of this belief in recent times. Where's my thinking up to take away topic until next week? Is that everything has a consciousness. I believe this now, and I've been studying it in my isolation, in my bush landscape, which I've been humanising, modifying, rending to my will for the last 50 years here on this rocky spur in southeast New South Wales on the descending ridgeline, hard granite of the Great Dividing Range, one of the biggest mountain ranges on Earth. And I understand the geology of it enough, and it's a long story. And I think these rocks have a presence, and it's not just they're made out of all this quartz and it was cooling and magma and the overburden of a kilometre of material which has just weathered away over geologic time. And I see, I'm looking out the window now, and I see one of the big bouldered parts of the ridge here, and it has a consciousness. It's a rock. It's just sitting there, and the summers come and the winters come and the rain comes and the heat comes, and it's just in it slowly, and I lose a few more crystals and a couple more wash off, and the kangaroo jumps over it and disrupts the lichen and the acid, and on and on. And so trees and the piece of wood and the laptop that I'm doing, they all exist, and including you and me and the birds and the bees and the dancing little things and all of the plants and animals and the cosmic, everything, the cup, the glass of water, everything has an existence and is an entity. And I think legitimately you could say it's self-aware. A cup is a cup is a cup, and it knows it.
Love it. I agree. I already believe that. Like when I go to my house, like when I'm a new house, my hello house, I talk to my house all the time. Like I'm not like talking to I'm literally talking to the spirit of the house, which is that mass of like matter and electrons and weird little systems. And like we're made up of these tiny little fucking. Like, I'm literally busting to go to the toilet. But like, what are those biophages? No, that's from a game. What are those little things that chase bacteria in your blood called?
Phages.
Yeah, biophages. All right, biophages chasing bacteria. I thought it was like a spell. Video, like crawling neutrophil. Like, look at this. Like, this is like a little soldier in your body avoiding white blood cells, chasing little bugs, and like you're just made of that. And you're like, oh, I'm a this special. Like, obviously, we have a particular type of sentient consciousness expressed with a neural blah blah blah. But it's just like we're also just a bunch of this. And
yeah, we're
also
all just
we're like a little bug in this. It's like saying, okay, well, there's all these systems of that is you, that is the blood pumping through you, but then the oxygen goes into the blood and the shit comes out of the arse.
Phages, and then I'm just remembering you've got there's some kind of notophages or phagocytes or something that attack them, and they're they're about the same
Oh wait, could you see?
scale.
You couldn't see. Sorry, I fucking pressed the button. Here, look at this.
Yeah,
Sorry, you know it though. You're imagining
go
what
for
I'm
it.
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
look at this. Look at
Moto
this. Look at this.
pages.
Like it's just its own little thing. It's just like cruising around.
Oh
Obviously, it
yeah, it's
doesn't
all
have a
love.
fucking
It's
bank
all
balance. Like
infinite existence.
it
It's
doesn't fucking.
fabulous.
It's not minting any NFTs. It doesn't you know? It's
Yeah.
chasing in
Has it
like
got a flat screen TV? No, it's a bit too small. Is it very good in the biochemical survival and get on with the job? There, it just enveloped that thing it was chasing.
it's
Now
just
it'll digest it.
it's
And
just on your
every
team.
molecule, every chemical, all of that, the water, the salt relationship, everything is just to the nearest molecule. It's such a dance.
And then Alan Watts is such obviously a great speaker. Like the web of life, he basically is just like if you think that like the interplay that you are like the blood in your body and like you're constantly these things transitioning. That extends all the way out to the outer edge of the universe. Like that, there's no
Absolutely.
enclosed system. They're all like and it's like none of that really helps when you've got to pay your fucking credit card or whatever, and you're like your leg hurts and you're like, I'm the universe, come on.
Well, it kind of
But it
does.
sort of
I
does,
think
but it doesn't when it doesn't.
I think it helps Sam for this reason is that if once you have that world slash universe view and your biochemical entity, because we've got a skin like Goodo put
Did
up
you
a little
extend
poem the other
very
day, said, I like my skin. My skin keeps the rest of me in. I like my skin. It's a boundary between me and everything else. And it went on as a lovely poem. But the idea is that we are discrete entities. Tick, yes, we are. We have a boundary, and there is us and not us. But at the same time, as soon as you go where you've just said, as soon as you go, it's the boundary between us and the rest of the universe is at best blurry in terms of the molecules in, molecules out, energy in, energy out. Is that the consolation of that is that literally and profoundly, you're not alone. You belong. You are part of this thing. You are not separate from this thing called the rest of existence. And I think that's psychologically really important to know that you're just part of the fucking dance.
That's a great ending. Little hello. Lindsay says hello, and my hair looks. Well, he says hair looks beautifully. Doesn't specify whose. Lindsay Henderson banned for 6 years. No, that's a made-up number. 2 years, 6 years ago. I don't know. Whatever. Lindsay, deep personal friend says and he said, oh no, he says wow, and he says totally agree. Papa Gowd. Don't know what he's agreeing with, but hi Lindsay, love you to bits. So does my dad because we're all part of the one universal, etc. Love you, Dad. Stream's over.
Time to go.
I'm about to wet my pants, so.